Well, isn't this a sight for sore eyes? Cracked walls, unstable foundation, cracks running through the walls. Imagine you're a real estate investor trying to find your next project. Raise your hand if you're finding a new project because this one looks busted. Raise your hand, raise your hand. Not surprised. But what if I told you this building wasn't like any other but a community center in Lalibela, Ethiopia? School-aged children come here after class. Single mothers gather here for resources. It is a lifeline to the village. Now, for communities like these, progress requires long-term commitment. But global health, much like its populations, rarely moves on such a long-term timeline. When progress slows, communities like these wait. I happen to be a member of one of these communities. My name is Rebekah Belete, and I am Ethiopian, if you couldn't already tell. And according to the NIH, 68.7% of Ethiopians suffer from multidimensional poverty. This includes washing, sanitation, hygiene. Can you see that? In the water, there, lingering in the lakes and rivers of Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia lies the parasite known as Schistosomiasis, or snail fever. Yeah, try saying that 10 times fast. Schistosomiasis. It's long. I digress. As you can see, it is actively spreading through the fresh water. Infected people release the eggs of this parasite through feces and urine, which usually end up in these communal waterways. The eggs are known to cause irreversible damage to the reproductive organs and higher in risk for bladder cancer. I only show to you this chain of reinfection to make you realize how inescapable it is. Many low-income families can't afford to go without this schistosomiasis infected waterways. That lake might be your only shot at bathing, swimming, and daily life for the week. This makes reinfection bound to happen if it's so prevalent and almost epidemic in your community. So now scientists have to think on not just the eggs, but the inescapable environmental factors. Now, as I said before, progress for these communities requires long-term commitment. These long-term solutions often are not going to be offered by short-term band-aid drugs like praziquantel. Of course, when you are infected with the parasite, kills it very well, very effective, lickety-split, it's gone. But when you get reinfected, and it is a matter of when, that's more medicine, more money, more dependence on healthcare systems. It is a continuation of the cycle with one more extra step. So, instead of clipping this issue by its leaves, vaccines will rip it out by its root. Basic research has been conducted, and scientists have taken off pieces of the parasite and introduced it to the immune system. Our immune system is able to recognize and attack the parasite. These pieces are known as antigens, which later develop into prototype vaccines, which we call candidates. To figure out which candidate is worth all our money, time, and attention, medical researchers, World Health Organizations, and medical investors all look for immune system-based lab work, also known as immunoassays. These immunoassays get a general vibe as to how your immune system is feeling in reaction to the parasite, whether that be through antibody levels or white blood cell counts. So, ladies and gentlemen, it seems quite obvious. Let's just figure out which candidate is giving us the best data. Let's go fund that one. Let's go research that one. I wish it was that simple, but it rarely is in the field of research and development. The key and crucial aspect of schistosomiasis is that it is a neglected tropical disease. Neglected meaning heavily under-researched and underfunded. Schisto research is happening all over the world, from Rwanda to Brazil to DC. Because of this international kind of research, every lab is often starting from different funding and resource points, meaning every lab also has different methods, models, and measurements. Here's what I mean. Imagine you're measuring blood pressure. You know, the tight cuff around your arm, the doctor, it gets bigger. We all are familiar, right? It's measured in millimeters of mercury. This measurement can be shared to specialists that they recommend you to, hospitals, nurses, can be given to you for your general gauge on how you're doing. There's also a set standard protocol on how to find it. But what if every clinic found a different way of using blood pressure? One uses an Apple Watch, the other one an AI-powered biosensor, top tech, and the other one just kind of puts his fingers to your wrist and is like, oh, it's about that number. And on top of that, they're getting measurements in completely different units. Sounds chaotic, I know, but that is the reality of schistosomiasis research as of current. There is no standardized protocol on how to gather data. Because of this lack of standardization, we cannot accurately compare the data we have for the candidates. And if we can't compare the candidates, how are we going to know which one could potentially prevent the 800 million people currently at risk for schistosomiasis from even having to encounter the disease? Not to brag, but this is where I come in. Currently, I'm conducting a meta-analysis, which is combining data studies from all over the world with different data designs completely, and trying to highlight and find the main immune patterns from each of the top 4 candidates in the world. Using Python and R, I'm trying to make labs finally speak the same concrete and quantitative language. Now, I don't hope for my meta-analysis to be some sort of end-all, be-all, ultimate solution, because it really is not. There are countless other problems with neglected tropical disease research and schistosomiasis research. My meta-analysis hopes to be simply a kick in the right direction. And that's what it is, right? Leading with the right direction. I earnestly think the only reason I was able to put up with every frustrating line of code, every paper I was unable to decipher, every session spent with scientists figuring out what the heck I was reading, I was only able to get through that because of the photorealistic, vivid image in my mind. I imagine a girl who looks just like me, walking to class, smiling very brightly. I envision her writing notes. I see her raising her hand in class, getting engaged in her education. I dream of her in a graduation cap and gown, diploma in hand. The reality is, for many schistosomiasis patients, they become infected around the age of 3 and have it until their 30s. This beloved child in my mind has finally broken free from the cycle. I so desperately desire to be a voice for those silenced by pharmaceutical companies who will not give them the time of day. I would be willing for my research to even be a grind in the right direction if it meant that someday my dream could be in motion for someone. Some pharmaceutical companies may choose to ignore schistosomiasis, but the over 250 million people yearly silently suffering cannot be ignored by us. I will not allow it. Thank you.